In this lesson we will start to talk about lights. We will talk about Vray lights, their types and their properties. So basically this is the Vray light that we are using. We can find the Vray lights here. We will go from geometry to lights. We will choose Vray as we are using Vray as our render, and we will choose Vray light. You can see that we have 4 types of lights. We will talk about them in the next lessons. For now, let's talk about the Vray light. Vray light is the main or the basic light that we will use in our interior design projects, as we will use Vray for our rendering. And it's basically a rectangle that emits light, or we can say light photons. And you can see that in the background we have an active background. We'll talk about that soon in the next lessons. And let's see the properties of our light so we can understand how we can manage it. So if I will delete this light, you can see that we have a dark scene, only the background is leading our interior. I intentionally left the background so we can see the effect of light more clearly. The Vray light is divided into 5 types. In this case we got the plane, we also got the dome, sphere, mesh and disc. So the plane, it's a plane or a rectangle, as we said earlier, that emits light. We will talk about those types as well. So if we will start with our properties, first property, we can turn on and off our lights by using this button. We can move this light, we can rotate this light at a specific angle, and depending on the angle, that light will emit the photons or the light in a specific direction. Usually we use the straight angles as our lights are set vertically and horizontally depending what lights we are talking about. Next, we also got the target. The target, it's used to target the light towards a specific object or a specific area. Well, we are not using too often this function for interiors. Next, we have the length and width of our light. They control the dimensions of our light. And by the way, the first rule that we must apply, we must not scale our lights. We must use these parameters to adjust our light. And by the way, you can see that if our light is smaller than the light that it is emitting, it's also less. So the dimensions of our light is directly proportional with the emitting photons, the number of emitting photons of our light. You can see here different types of units. Some do use them for interior. Well, we will stick with the default ones for now. And next we got our multiplier. This is a more important one. So this parameter controls the intensity of our light. If I will increase it, the light will increase as well. If you will set that to 0, you can see that our light becomes black. But number 30, it's somewhere an average or middle number, a mid-level for our light from where we start. Keep in mind we also use the Vray physical camera. Next we got the color and temperature. Let me show you first the color. So the color basically is the color of our light. So we can pick any color from here. For example, we can pick a red and our light will be red. If we pick a blue or a bluish tint, our light will have a blue tint or a blue color, and so on. These parameters are usually used for decorative purposes. Next we got the temperature. Temperature is about interior design mainly, so we will stick to temperature 90% of the time. So a lower value, for example 3000, will give us warm or hot tints of our light. We can use 4500 for medium warm tones, 6500 K. It's used for a neutral white. It's mainly used for bathrooms, for example, and not only. We will talk about that later. If we aim to create cold tints in our interior, we will go above 7 or 8000 K. By the way, you can see the Kelvin scale or temperature here. Next we have the option of direction of our light. It's emitting light 180 degrees in front of it. so we can narrow the light if we want, but basically we will not do this for interiors. Next we have the options. They are mainly used to control the lights in V-Ray. So first we have the cast shadows. If I'll switch off the cast shadows, you can see that our light is creating no more shadows. You can see it here under armchairs and not only. Next we have the double-sided option. Let me actually move a bit our light. In this case you will see the effect a lot more clear. So we have the light coming from both directions, from the front and from the back side of our light. Next we got the invisible. Invisible is used very often, for example, for hidden lights, like you can see here. We must hide our light sources a lot of times. We have the effect diffuse. If we switch off the diffuse, you can see that we are not affecting the diffuse color. Next we got the effect specular. We are not affecting the specular in our interior or in our scene. We also have the effect reflections. In this case, the light will not affect the reflections on our reflective objects that got this parameter enabled. Not all the objects are reflecting. And we also got atmosphere, but we don't have atmospheric effects here. And we also got the other types of lights. We will talk about mesh and dome in the next lessons. I would like to show that in real examples, how we can apply that. So if I will switch to dome, it's basically a half of a sphere that emits light. It looks very like a sky. Next we have the sphere. It's the same thing like plane, but only in a spherical shape. The radius, it's giving us the dimension and also the amount of light that it is emitting. It is usually used for light bulbs and not only. I will show that also in examples. And we got the disk. The disk is the same like our plane, only thing that the disk is in a round shape or a circle shape. We can increase the disk size. Let me actually move the disk a bit back so we can see the effect. So it's basically the same thing like our plane, only in a circle shape. We have here as well some options, for example decay and so on, but we will not use them for now. They are of secondary use. So in the next lesson I would like to show the mesh. This is a very used one, and I would like to show that based on a real example, how we can use that for our lamps in interior design.